Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be bringing you my 23 books to read in 2023. So I just want to preface this video with these are not all of the books I want to read in 2023. This is just a sprinkling of the books that I want to read. I have huge reading plans in 2023. So many things I want to get to, so many fantasy books and romance books, and just a lot I want to read, honestly. I want it to be a really amazing reading year. I have super high hopes for it. This is not everything. Also, this list will not include any of the books on my previous video, which was all of the series that I want to continue and or finish in 2023. This won't have any of those on it. These are all series that I have not picked up yet. Those series I have not read yet, and or standalones as well. Also, I want to let you know, these are not written in order of like how much I want to read them. This is just completely randomized in no particular order. Also, don't let me forget to let you know that none of these books on this list are going to include any of my like most anticipated releases either. So all of these books have already been released. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you do so. Don't forget to click the like button. It really helps my channel grow, and comment down below and let me know which of these books should I prioritize, which do you think I should read first, and also what book can you just not wait to read in 2023. If you want to follow me on social media, all of my links are down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. With all of that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get into this video. The first book on my list is Hannah Whitten's For the Wolf. This was on my Once Upon a Readathon TBR, and I just didn't get a chance to get to it, but I'd really like to get to it this winter. And especially I'd like to get to it before her new book is released in 2023, because I actually have an arc for that. But I'd like to get to know her writing style first. So I'd really like to get to this. This is the first book in a duology in which there are two sisters, and one is going to be promised to the wolf, being sent into this enchanted and dangerous forest to be sacrificed, and the other sister is going to be for the throne. So she is supposed to marry into royalty, and I'm expecting this to be a romantic and enchanting fairy tale retelling, basically a fantasy romance or a fantasy with some romance that is hopefully going to be atmospheric as the cover suggests. I really hope so, and I'm looking forward to getting into this one. Next, I have Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is the first book in the Bloodsworn saga. There are 2 books released already in this series. I am just now finishing up the Faithful and the Fallen series. It is a quartet, so 4 books, and I really enjoyed it. I'd also like to read the continuation series. There's a trilogy that actually takes place in the same world, but many, many years after the Faithful and the Fallen series, and I would like to get to that, but I'd like to take a break from that world first and read the Bloodsworn saga, and then go back to that world. So that's what I'm going to do. This is inspired by Norse mythology, and as you can see, there are dragons, and I love dragons. I want to read more books with dragons. I really honestly haven't read that many, and I'd like to read more, and this is definitely one that I want to get to. I mean, this cover is just honestly so epic. So like I said, and what it says on the back is this is a Norse-inspired epic of blood and vengeance. So it says, when the gods fought, it was a battle so savage they destroyed themselves, leaving nothing but their bones and the broken land of Vigrid in their wake. Now, as whispers of war echo over the fjords and across the plains, fate follows in the footsteps of 3 warriors, a huntress on a perilous quest, a noble woman pursuing battle fame, and a thrall seeking retribution among the mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. All 3 will change the course of the world as it once more falls under the shadow of the gods. This sounds so good. I actually like the way that synopsis ended gave me chills. And so I really want to get to this one and I cannot wait. The next book I have on my list is Swordheart. This is number 3 on my list. Swordheart by T. Kingfisher. And this is supposed to be a fantasy romance and I really want to get to it. I've only read one book so far by T. Kingfisher, that was Nettle and Bone, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And according to Riley Marie, this book is amazing. I think this might be her favorite book by T. Kingfisher. So that makes me really want to read it because me and Riley Marie do have similar taste. If you watch my taste test of Riley Marie's reading taste, I'll have that linked down below in the description, then you will know, yes, we do have super similar taste and I can't wait to read more books recommended by her. Now, this book is about Hala, who is a housekeeper, and she suddenly inherits her great uncle's estate and unfortunately his relatives. And then it also follows this swordsman who is trapped in a prison of enchanted steel. It says Hala draws the sword that imprisons him, and he finds himself attempting to defend his new wielder against everything from bandits to roving inquisitors to her own in-laws. And the sword itself may prove to be the greatest threat of all. So this sounds really good. I love the cover, I love the concept, and I love me some fantasy romance. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. Number 4 on this list is The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. This is another Norse-inspired epic fantasy, and Tad Williams is supposed to be an amazing storyteller. He is supposed to have beautiful prose, be an amazingly talented writer, and I've heard nothing but great things about this series. In this world, I think we're actually going to be following 2 or 3 different series. This is just the first trilogy in the, I think it's the Ostenard series. I could be wrong, but my goal is to try to actually just read the first trilogy, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. And this is the first book in that series, and I've been wanting to get to this for a long time. It's a Norse-inspired epic fantasy, and it follows multiple POVs, and that's really all I know about it. And I kind of don't want to know too much going into this one. I don't know why. I kind of just want to keep the general hopes of it just being like a beautifully written epic fantasy that is set in a Norse-inspired world. I just want to keep with that idea, with those buzzwords, and go from there. Next, I have this Starless C by Erin Morgenstern. I loved The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. It is one of my favorite books of all time. I actually would love to reread it next year, but this is her other most famous work, and I know that it's quite divisive. So I'm a little bit nervous going in. I have read the first chapter in this book when I was doing a chapter for the Abby Salter taste test reading vlog, and I did enjoy it. I just wasn't in the mood for this type of read at the time, but I thought it was beautifully written and I was excited to pick it up. So I definitely want to pick this one up. It's supposed to be a whimsical fantasy where we have our main character who stumbles across this mysterious library book, and it has details of his own life in it, and he goes on a quest to find this door. I think. That's all I know. I know it's going to be enchanting, quirky, whimsical, beautifully written, and you're not fully always going to know what's happening, and you kind of have to just lean into that. That is how Erin Morgenstern writes. You need to lean into the whimsy or be okay with reading the kind of book where you just lean into the whimsy and don't have to know for sure what's actually happening, and just kind of let your imagination run wild. And that's what I loved about The Night Circus. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. Number 6 on this list is Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is a grimdark, as far as I know, this is a grimdark series that is set in a very frosty, cold world, and so it makes me want to pick it up this winter. It's about this girl, Nona, who joins the convent of Sweet Mercy, and it's where nuns learn to become assassins. Sign me up. That sounds like crazy and awesome. I think that each book might take place in a separate year of the assassin school. Like maybe the Red Sisters is the first year and like Gray Sisters are the second year, but I'm not positive. I just know it's going to be violent and Arctic and hopefully a good epic time. I've honestly heard nothing but great things about this series. I don't know anyone that's given it below 4 stars. My husband adored this book, so I cannot wait to pick up Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. Next, I have Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. I have a lot of friends who have been reading this series recently and really, really enjoying it. So I want to pick it up. I think this is supposed to be like queer Star Wars, but even more fantasy than Star Wars. And the cover is absolutely gorgeous, and I just hear wonderful things about it. I think it's supposed to be fast-paced, with some really great characters as well, and just be a fun, epic time. So that's all I really know about it. The back says, not even the ties of blood will keep them from splitting the world in two. Surrounded by the relics of a dead empire, two siblings, one who wields magic for the empire and the other who has vowed to bring them all down, will battle for the fate of the world in the first book of this epic new fantasy trilogy by Django Wexler. And that sounds really great. Like, two siblings on separate sides of this big conflict. Sounds like a really good time. Sounds like there's going to be some interpersonal dynamics, some like hearts in turmoil, and I love that. Not like, I don't love that in real life, but like I love that in a fantasy book, you know. So number 8 on this list, I have Bow Before the Elf Queen. I don't have a physical copy of this book, but this is by J.M. Curl. And as far as I know, this is a Norse-inspired fantasy romance that is inspired by Hades and Persephone, Lord of the Rings, and obviously Norse mythology as well. So we have our main character, Leala, who prepares for the day the wicked high elf king named Thane will come to steal her because she is supposed to be his powerful mate. And she is training to take revenge for the wrongful execution of her parents, who died for their freedom. But when she meets Thane, she finds out that he has a dark secret that will prevent her from killing him. And so I think this might be like a big time enemies to lovers kind of trope. And the whole series looks great. These books look to be quite thick. The first book in this series is 602 pages. So I think there's going to be a lot to unravel in this series, and I cannot wait. The next book on this list is What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper Woods and Adelaide Forrest. The synopsis of this book gives me major ACOTAR vibes. It looks like there's been this veil, this border between like the Fae and the humans, and they've worshipped them like gods but also fear them. Somehow the veil has been dropped, and now our main character is running with her friend Callum, because they have been Fae marked to be mated with Fae, but because they are Fae marked and being mated gives Fae extra power, they will be hunted by Fae so that the Fae can basically control who has the power. So they run from the Fae, and the story goes from there. And I've heard wonderful things about this series. I think Tori from Novel Life really enjoyed this book, and so I can't wait to pick this one up. Next, I have a sci-fi book that has been basically everyone who's read it's favorite book of the year for the year that they read this book, I feel like. I have Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. I have not read anything by Andy Weir yet, but I will say The Martian's one of my favorite movies. I've watched it many times and loved it. So I definitely want to pick this one up, and I've heard amazing things. I've heard things about maybe friendship that might be involved in this book that is like super special, and we basically have our main character who is a sole survivor on a desperate last chance mission to save Earth, but he doesn't know that because he has woken up in space not knowing where or where he is or why he's there, other than like he's in space and he's by himself and shit, basically. The story goes from there, and he needs to figure out that he's supposed to be saving the world, and then I guess how to do so. Sounds really epic. Sounds fun. I know that Andy Weir has an amazing sense of humor and his writing is wonderful, and that everyone has adored this book, so I definitely cannot wait to read this one. Number 11 on this list is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. I adore pirate romances, and I adore polyamorous and or why choose romances as well, and it looks like we might get both of my favorites in this. This is a dark romance. I've never read Pam Godwin's romances before or anything by her, but I know she writes dark taboo romances, and this one is a dark historical romance, and it's about pirates, and that's all I know. That and is one of Kaylee's favorite romances and one of Riley's favorite romances, and I definitely trust both of their opinions and cannot wait to pick this one up. Not to mention, that cover is gorgeous. I do know this is a very, very, very dark romance, so if you need to check triggers, make sure you do so. Next, I have another sci-fi here, and that is Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio. This is going to be a 6-book series. I believe the 6th book is coming out in 2023 or is maybe planned to. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about this series. It's going to be like a fantasy sci-fi, right? And so this is going to be like a sci-fi space opera with lots of fantasy elements, and it says here, on the wrong planet at the right time for the best reasons, Hadrian Marlowe started down a path that could only end in fire. The galaxy remembers him as a hero, the man who burned every last Selsun from the sky. They remember him as a monster, the devil who destroyed the sun, casually annihilating 4 billion human lives. Even the emperor himself against imperial orders. But Hadrian was not a hero, he was not a monster, he was not even a soldier. So sounds like a really good synopsis. It's definitely very intriguing. I want to know what happens. I want to know Hadrian's story. I want to know like why everyone thinks he did this. Did he do this? How did he do this? Like, what's going on? And I hear this is supposed to be super, super epic in scope. And I really want to sink my teeth into an epic sci-fi space opera that has fantasy elements. I've talked about this before on my channel, but I just haven't experienced that yet. And I really, really would like to this year or this coming year. Number 13 on my list is Cleopatras Dart by Jacqueline Carey. This is supposed to be an epic political fantasy series that is a little bit dark and also has a lot of like erotic elements too. Not necessarily a romance, but romantic elements and or erotic elements intertwined because the society, sexual nature in the society is out in the open and like it's just out there. And we have our main character who is a young woman with a unique gift. She's been pricked by Cleopatras Dart. So she's forever bound to experience pain and pleasure as one. So she can't feel pain without feeling pleasure, cannot feel pleasure without feeling pain. She's trained equally in the courtly arts and the talents of the bedchamber, and she's able to observe, remember, and analyze her clients, learn their darkest secrets, and so she's kind of like a bedroom spy, it sounds like. So there's gonna be a lot of political intrigue, a lot of erotic moments in here, and she's going to somehow get intertwined with this political fantasy plot, and I can't wait to read it. I've heard it's really wonderful, and it sounds like something that would be right up my alley, something that I would really, really enjoy. Number 14 on this list, we have Half a Soul. I don't own a physical copy of this book, but this is supposed to be a Regency fantasy romance, so sign me up. I think that every book in the series, I think there's 3 of them, every book is almost like a novella length or a very short novel, and these are Regency era, so almost think like Bridgerton meets a fae fantasy romance. So I know in the first one, our character has literally lost half of her soul, so she does not deal with regular social experiences normally. She doesn't feel like empathy or fear, I don't believe, and she has to try to navigate Regency socialite life with that issue, obviously, with having half a soul. And I hear it's really cute. I hear it's like a really sweet romance, and I love the idea of fantasy meeting Regency era romance meeting like cozy fantasy. I love the combination there, and I cannot wait to pick this one up. So next on my list, I have another fantasy romance, and this is Between Wrath and Mercy by Jess Wisecup. And this is actually really cool because we have a mother as our heroine. She has a 16-year-old daughter, so you'd have to think she's probably at least, I would imagine maybe like at least 30, and her daughter's been kidnapped, and she's basically spent her life trying to protect her daughter because her daughter has these divine abilities that she really wants to protect her daughter. Her daughter has been in this prophecy and she's supposed to bring peace to the three kingdoms. So she knows a lot of people are going to want their hands on her daughter and she wants to protect her. But her daughter's been kidnapped and so she goes on this quest to save her daughter. And in the process, she has to basically go to her ex-boyfriend maybe, and basically the guy that she just does not want to see. And a fantasy romance ensues, and I just hear it's epic and beautiful. I adore the cover, and I love the idea of a mom being the heroine in a fantasy romance series. I just really, really like that concept. So I definitely want to check this one out. Number 16 on my list is The Jasmine Thrown by Tasha Suri. This was on my list of books to read this summer, and it didn't happen, so I'm definitely going to be trying to pick this up, hopefully springtime. I want to get to it as soon as possible. This is a sapphic, Indian-inspired epic fantasy, political fantasy trilogy. I believe the third book is coming out in 2023, so if I could read the first and second and then be able to read the third book when it comes out, that would be wonderful. But this is basically about a princess, Malini, who dreams of vengeance. She has been trapped by her brother, so she's almost like a prisoner in her own castle kind of situation. And then we also follow Priya, who is her maidservant. And the two somehow basically get intertwined. Maybe a sapphic love story happens and they go on some kind of adventure, basically maybe trying to free the princess and destroy the empire. I don't know. But it says at the end here of the synopsis, it says, together they will set an empire ablaze. Sign me up. So this sounds awesome. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. And I cannot wait to read it. I'm pretty sure that I've said the phrase like, I cannot wait to read it, or I cannot wait to pick it up a million times in this video already. So sorry for that, if that gets annoying. I mean, it's the truth, but like, it's hard to like reel it in and hold it in because I really do. I really cannot wait to read these books. My shelves are getting like overly packed and I'm actually starting to have trouble finding books. I need a third bookshelf. Well, a third fiction bookshelf. I have a third bookshelf. I have a whole bookshelf that is nonfiction that is in my living room. That's neither here nor there. I need another bookshelf in here. I do. Okay, screw it. I can't find it. I do own it. It is here. I know it is here, but the next book on this list is The Wolf of Orenyaro. And I'm just going to pop up an image right here because I just can't find it. It's on these shelves. I swear it. This is going to be the Femmes Afictionados book club pick for December and January. And so our live show is going to be in early February. And hopefully if we all like it, we'll be continuing on with the series. We're going to have Crystal from Bond Book Reviews being our special guest for this book as well, so I'm really excited to pick it up. So I definitely will be reading The Wolf of Orenyaro in January. This is a series about a woman who has been in this marriage with this man but they've basically, she's been married to him for political reasons, but then they kind of went their separate ways and she's trying to run this kingdom somehow when no one really wants to listen to her possibly. I'm not sure. I don't know much about it other than it looks really good, and I love the idea of a series being called like The Chronicles of a Bitch Queen, though I do think that she may have changed that title. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. It looks really good. And once again, I like the idea of an older heroine, and I think she is a little bit older. Number 18 on this list is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. Christopher Paolini wrote the Aragon series when he was quite young, and this is his sci-fi debut, but I think he's going to make this almost kind of like the Cosmere, where there's like an extended universe that he's going to be writing his books in, and this is the first one. So the synopsis says, Kira Navarez dreamed of life on new worlds. Now she's awakened a nightmare. During a routine survey mission on an uncolonized planet, Kira finds an alien relic. At first she's delighted, but elation turns to terror when the ancient dust around her begins to move. War erupts among the stars, and Kira is launched into a galaxy-spanning odyssey of discovery and transformation. First contact isn't all that she imagined. And so, yeah, it's a epic sci-fi that involves a first contact experience, and cover is gorgeous, and I've heard wonderful things about this book. Next book I have is quite a short standalone. This is Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a fantasy romance with horror elements because we do have one of Dracula's brides in here, and this book is told in an epistolary format. She's writing a letter or letters to her husband, I believe, and this is, yeah, it's a fantasy romance told in letters. I've heard that the writing is beautiful and it's a stunningly romantic book. I don't think I've heard a single bad thing about this book, and it's very intriguing to me. The idea of one of Dracula's brides, it sounds like it's going to be good. Next on this list, I have a Mary Mystery book. Y'all know that I really like Mary Mystery's White Shoes fantasy romances, and I have Beyond the Fairy Gate. This is a White Shoes fantasy romance where there are all kinds of different fairies, and I think this is going to be a larger series, possibly at least 5 books in this series, per my conversation with her, and so it sounds really good. I don't know anything about it. I don't know the summary. I just know that I've loved or liked at least every single Mary Mystery book I've picked up. I think the lowest rating I've given her books was a 3.75, and that was her first book, fantasy romance book she ever wrote. So I've really enjoyed her writing, and I don't even really need to know much going into her books anymore. If she wrote it, I would like to read it, and this is her newest series. I think the second book in the series literally just came out maybe yesterday as of filming this, so I'd like to read it. I also know she's had a lot of fun writing this book, and that she has included lots of fairy and fae lore from around the world, which really interests me. Next, I have one that I think everyone has been reading, and that's Babble by R.F. Kuang. Will this be the dark academia that makes me actually like dark academia? We will see. There's fantasy elements, so that makes me think it could be, and it is historical fantasy, and that makes me think it could be as well. So I feel like if I'm going to like a dark academia, this is going to be it. This one's going to be it. So we have our main character, Robin Swift. This is set in 1828. He's been orphaned because of cholera in Canton, and he's been brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lovell. He trains in Latin, ancient Greece, and Chinese in preparation for the day that he will enroll in Oxford's Royal Institute of Translation, known as Babble. So in this tower and in this world, translation actually produces magic. That's the magic system, and I find that very interesting as well. My major in college, I had a major in political science. I also majored in French. I lived in France for a while. Language and translation definitely really interests me, and so that's another reason that I do believe if I'm going to like a dark academia book, it will be this one. So cannot wait to pick this one up. Second to last on this list is Thiago Abdallah's A Touch of Light. This is an epic fantasy series. This is the first book in that series, and there are griffins in this world, and also trees that are red and orange. That's all I know. Honestly, that's all I really need to know. There's griffins and really cool orange trees. Yeah, I don't know much about this. Do you want to know what this book is about? Because I guess I should probably find out. I do know this is a self-published fantasy, but the synopsis says, how far would you go to resurrect someone you love? Would you change who you are to show you belong? The world of Averin is tearing itself apart. The domain worships life. Its leaders lead eternal lives, and death is shame that must not be mourned. But in the clans to the south, death is all that keeps the earth alive. Adrian is a prince of one of the domain's nations. Church teaching says that his grief is forbidden, but he will stop at nothing to return his loved ones to worthiness, even if it means sacrificing his own. Lynn is a rogue elite warrior hiding from her past, but now an old enemy is rising and running running is no longer an option. Nasha is a gifted hunter hiding a terrible secret, a lifelong outcast. She desperately fights for belonging in the Ronar, a proud southern clan. Yet a changing world threatens more than just her status in the community. But now a terrifying foe creeps nearer and the people of Aberin must fight to save it. I like multiple POV stories, and I especially like that this one, of the 3, 2 are female. I really like that. And like I said, there's griffins, and this sounds very interesting. I like religious commentary in political fantasies. That's something that is like a buzzword for me. So I like that. This sounds really good, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things. Finally, we have the 23rd book on my list of books to read in 2023. This is a book that I know little to nothing about, so let me grab my Kindle here, my handy dandy Kindle. But I have Blood Mercy by Vila Roth. This book I've heard about from Ashley from A Frolic through Fiction and Erin from Booked and Busy. I've heard both of them really, really enjoying this book. It's a fantasy romance about vampires. I believe the romance in this book is like a sweet romance. The synopsis says, one human, one immortal, their alliance will their alliance save the kingdom, or will their forbidden love be a death sentence? So it sounds almost like a Romeo and Juliet kind of retelling, forbidden love from 2 separate sides of the coin. So we've got Cassia, when she seeks out a Hesperine, he could end her mortal life in a heartbeat. I believe that Hesperines in this world are like vampires. It says that she has no fear of his magic or his fangs. She knows the real monster is the human king, her father. So this sounds really interesting, and I've heard that is really, really good, really addictive, and a really great fantasy romance. I really want to dive into a lot of fantasy romance next year as well. So there you have it. Those are my top 23 books that I want to read in 2023. Like I said, there's like a million other books that I also would like to read in 2023, but these are the ones that really stand out, the ones that I want to make sure that I prioritize. I hope that I prioritize, but as a mood reader, we'll see what happens. But these books right now are the ones that I think I'd really like to pick up next year. If you liked this video, make sure to click the like button. If you have not already subscribed, I would love for you to do so as well. Please comment down below and let me know which of these books you think I should prioritize. Which should I read first in 2023? And what book can you not wait to read next year? As always, all of my social media is linked down below in the description. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.